Okay, sorry guys, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, so I am a few minutes late, but it looks like we are live now. So what I'm going to actually do is just give folks a few minutes to just come on in. And if you are currently watching this, can you just do a quick tech check with me and let me know if you can hear me and if you can see me? Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm starting to see the comments coming in now. What I think I'm going to do though is we kind of had a little bit of a tech problem, so maybe I'm just going to slow it down a little bit, give some folks some time to come on in. So if you are joining us, it'd be great to just get a sense of where you're joining from. So go ahead and write that into the chat so we can get a sense of who's showing up for these events. And while I'm at it, I guess I should just also say, honestly, thank you so much for joining us for our whole eDesign Business Building Week. It has been a crazy week, but it's been really, really good. And we had some really fantastic speakers. We've covered a lot of topics to help you guys grow your online and virtual design businesses. And I do hope that you got a lot of great takeaways. So, I mean, from pricing your services to marketing to expanding into new markets and figuring out better ways to earn more off of your product sales, there's been a lot that's been covered. And hopefully you guys have been finding those topics really helpful. Okay. Well, it looks like people are starting to funnel in now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead. We're going to jump in and get started. We have a lot to cover in today's session. And today's session is going to be all about mood boards, how to create them in a way that really clearly gets your vision across to your client and gets you faster approvals. Because there's nothing worse than being stuck in a project with a client who just can't visualize the design and you're going through a lot of back and forth at the beginning design stages and you're struggling to get that approval to move the project forward. So what we're going to be doing here is just going over some great tips and tricks that you can use to create more realistic mood board designs that will help your client clearly understand the design and move that project forward faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get this set up. And Cole, if you can just yell out to me to let me know that you're able to see the screen, then that would be great. So let me go ahead and get that set up. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can see the screen now. You should be able to see a number of design boards currently on it. Okay, I'm just going to stop the screen share just for 1 second so I can pop back into StreamYard and just perfect. Okay, now that I know that you guys can see it, I'll jump back out. All right, here we go. So today I want to basically share some of my favorite tips and tricks for taking a mood board design from something simple like this, just kind of your standard concept board, and just elevating it up to a full room design like this to really help you clearly show your client how all these pieces are going to come together within their space. Now I have put together what I thought we would kind of essentially do is just literally replicate this design. So that way you can kind of see how I approach this process step by step. And I'll just kind of share some of those neat little tricks that you can use to speed it up overall. So I'm going to jump back to this view right here because I've already set up a blank mood board design that I want to use. So we'll jump right into this. And actually what I think I'm going to do here is, I think I've already got it open. Perfect. I want to keep this view open so that we can jump back and forth and you can see how we're replicating this design. So I'm going to jump into the actual mood board software here. I already have this empty room image that I'm going to be using as the backdrop for my design. And I just really grabbed one from the empty room library that's available within Design Files. But if you're working on your client projects, what you can do is over here in your library, you can upload images of your client space, or a better approach might actually be to do a quick 3D rendering of your client space. Just keep it completely empty, just the overall shell. And then you can save that as a JPEG, and then you can upload it into the Moodboard software so that you can use it as the backdrop for your design. Now, I'm not actually going to get into the exact steps for how to do that because we've already created a video that will show you exactly how to do it step by step. So Cole, if you could share the video link in the chat that shows our designers how to use the 3D floor planner within Design Files, create that empty rendering, and then upload it into the Moodboard software, then that would be great. And then you guys can just watch that after this webinar, and that will give us more time to just go over some of those tips and tricks that you can use within the Moodboard software. Okay, so first things first, I've got my empty room image here that I'm going to be using. And one of the things that I do like to do when I'm creating a full room design is to make sure that my empty room image is expanded so that it's covering the full size of the canvas. So let me just pop back here to one of these designs. In this case, you can see that I've left a little bit of white space around. I'm recommending that you don't do that. And the reason I recommend that you don't do that is because there's going to be cases where you're going to be distorting items so that they extend out properly, so that the perspective is correct. And it might extend beyond the edge of that empty room image, and it creates a scenario like this. I feel like it's just not as clean a look as I would like. So if you are like me and you just want everything to look more like it's going to be a very clean photograph snapshot of the actual space, that's why you want to look at expanding your room design so that it occupies the entire canvas. And then it doesn't really matter if you're extending things out beyond it, because anything beyond that canvas is going to get cut off anyway. So it gives you that nice clean look. Now that I've got this empty room in place here, one of the things that I do want to do is just lock it down. I don't want my images moving around on me when I'm creating my design. So I'm going to select the empty room image, and I'm just going to click the lock tool over here. And that way, if I accidentally click on this thing, it's not going to shift and move around, and then I'll have to adjust it after the fact. Now, before I start getting into adding in a number of products into this particular space, I'm going to actually start tackling the walls first. So I do have a paint color that I want to apply to this wall. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump into the paint color library, and I've already selected it here. So I'm going to be using this smoke ember option from Benjamin Moore. And if I want to get this paint swatch nice and lined up for this wall, what I'm actually going to do is I'll use the zoom features down here on the toolbar. So hopefully you're seeing my mouse moving around. I'm going to click into that just to zoom in nice and close to the edges of the wall so that I can get this perfectly placed. And you can also use the left, right, and up, down arrows on your keyboard so that you can move everything into place. I'm just going to click on this corner and expand this paint swatch out. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to use the distort tool so that I can extend it out and fill the rest of this wall. Right about there. Now, when I apply this, and I'll just kind of adjust this one slightly. When I apply this, the one thing that I find is that if you just leave the paint swatches like this, they look very flat. It doesn't look realistic to me. It looks like there's just a square that's in front of the wall. So what I like to do is I'll click on the paint swatch, and I'm going to use the image adjustment feature over here. And I'm going to take the transparency down to maybe 70% or 75% or something like that. And the nice thing about doing this is that when you do that, you're going to start to see some of those sun marks that are on the wall here. It's going to start showing some of the shadows along the corners and the edges, and it just makes it look a little bit more realistic. So that works much better for me. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this paint swatch. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm just going to flip it over, and then I'm going to add it over on this side, and we're going to apply it to this wall. And again, I'm just going to use the left, right, and up, down arrows on my keyboard so that I can get this perfectly lined up. And once I have that, I can just shift my screen over. And just in case you're wondering how I'm shifting my screen, I'm just clicking down on the left button on my mouse and holding it, and then moving my screen around. Now I'm going to use the distort tool again, just so that I can get this lined up for this edge. And I'm not really too concerned about covering some of this trim or the baseboard, because I'm actually going to replace it. So I'm just kind of getting things lined up the way I need it. And once that's done, I can apply it. I'll duplicate that. I'm going to bring it over to the other wall now. We'll flip it. And I'm going to apply it over here. And I'll just need to adjust this slightly. And I'm going to extend it out a little bit more. Now, if you're wondering to yourself, okay, well, what about those windows? Like, we don't want to have the windows covered by the paint. Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to fix that as well. So I'm just going to pull this up a little bit more I want to zoom right in there. I am a little bit of a fusspot, guys, so you'll have to bear with me while I build out these designs. But because you guys are designers, I'm assuming you're quite the same. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So yes, the window's covered, but here's the thing. I didn't want to waste my time creating a paint swatch that's going to go over the window, down the side, along the bottom. It's just going to be a hassle. So a better approach for handling this, and a faster approach, is to actually just use your empty room image and then cut out the window and place it on top. So I'm going to double click on my empty room image that I locked. I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to duplicate this. And what I'm going to do here is I'll go into the background removal tools, and I'm just going to switch over into the manual remove background option. I'm going to zoom right in to the window. And then we're just going to cut this window section out. And then we're going to add that directly on top of the paint swatch, so that I've got a nice, clean, bright window, and I didn't have to waste the time to fuss about with all those different paint swatches. Okay. So now what I'd like to do here is let's start adding in some different trim elements, because I actually don't want this little kind of the shorter wood-stained baseboard. I want to add something a little bit more substantial. So I'm going to go into my library, because I've already saved a number of items that I want to use within this design. And you can, if you go into your project items, I should say, my main library is just my library of all the items that I've ever uploaded into design files. But if you want to start adding items into your project, you can use the project items section, and then you can have that curated collection of all those products that you plan on using for this particular project. And it's just going to save you time having to scroll through things. So here I've got this trim that I'm going to be using, this baseboard trim. And I'm just going to drag this out, and you can see that a portion of this image is missing. So if you're wondering why that's happening, basically here's how Design Files works. If I drag this item out, you can see that the system is automatically removing all that white background so that you don't have to spend the time to do it yourself. So in cases where you've got white product, you might find that a bit of the product is being removed as well, but it's an easy fix. So we're just going to select it. I'm going to go into the background removal tool over here, and I'm going to bring this toggle all the way to the left to bring the full image back in. Then we'll hit save. And now what I'm going to do here is we'll zoom into this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to click the crop tool on the toolbar, and we're just going to cut this down and take only the portion of this image that we need. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in again. I want to get nice and close. And then I'm going to slide this over into the corner for where I want it to be. I'm going to scale it down to the size that I want. So let's say that we're going to make it, I'm just going to shift this over a little bit more, maybe roughly around this size. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use the distort tool, and I'm going to drag this corner all the way over to this side of the room and do the same thing for the top. And then I can add in my own specific trim that I want to add for this particular design. So maybe right about there. We'll apply this. And then again, what I'm going to do to just kind of speed up this process is just take this piece. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to line up this edge again. We'll bring it in, slide my screen over so I can see the end of this product that I want to work with here. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just, again, use the distort tool to just distort this and get it into place. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so I can get nice and close. Okay, so we'll use the distort tool. We're going to bring this right in here and line it up. And what I'm going to do here, when I'm trying to determine the overall height for this baseboard, I'm just using the angle of the window as my guide so that I can make sure that the perspective for this piece is also correct. Okay, so we'll apply that. And then what I'm going to do here is we'll just zoom out for a second. Oh, it looks like I can just pop that up a little bit. What I'll do now is I'm going to take this piece right here. I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to flip it, and we're going to bring it right on over to this wall as well. Right about one more, right about there. Okay, so we can zoom out of this. We've got our new baseboard in. You can do the same thing with the crown molding as well, which you'll probably see that I did in here. So I'm not going to replicate that same step. I want to kind of continue on here and show you a few additional tools and tips that you can use, but you would just replicate that same process if you wanted to do the crown molding as well. Okay, so the next thing that we can start doing is we can start bringing in the actual product. And if you're creating more of the full room designs, it's really, really important to get the perspective accurate. And one of the best ways that you can do that is to bring in a perspective grid. So you can see that I've got mine sitting behind this empty room image here. I'm just going to bring it forward. So we'll unlock this, and I'm going to bring it all the way to the front. Now, the nice thing about this is that it gives you those guidelines so that you can make sure that when you're adding curtains to the walls or you're adding rugs to the floor or anything like that, you're going to be able to use those guidelines to get all your perspective accurate. So I currently just faded this down. Let me just bring it back up so that we have a nice strong grid that we're able to see here. And then again, I'm just going to lock this thing into place because I don't want anything shifting on me. So now if I bring in, let's see here, where's my rug? Here we go. I've got this rug that I'm going to use. It has a little bit of a fuzzy edge, like a little shadow here. So I'm just going to crop that off and clean it up. Okay, great. We're going to rotate this rug around. I'm going to drop it down here. And again, I'm just going to shift my screen. And then I'm just going to kind of roughly line it up where I feel like I want this rug to go. So now that I have this grid in place, this is what makes it easy. I can use the distort tool, and I'm just going to pull on the corners of this rug, and it's going to show me exactly where I need to line it up with so that I get a more accurate perspective for this particular piece. And I want to just kind of try to get it to line up with the bottom of my design here. So right about, I'm going to say right about there is looking pretty accurate. And that should do the trick as well. Okay, so we'll add that in. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the sidewall over here. So there's a few pieces that I want to add to that. Let's see if I've got this one right here. Okay, so I wanted to use this piece within the design. And first thing I'm going to do is actually clean it up because there's a few little shadows there. So we'll go into the background tool. I'm just going to use the Magic Auto Removal tool just to clean that up. And now that I've got a nice clean image, I'm going to bring this over here to the side of the design. And I'm going to line up that back leg there. Now, obviously, this piece is not in the correct perspective for this particular space. So we're going to adjust that. But one of the key things that I needed to make sure I had for the credenza that I'm going to add to this side wall was the item shot slightly on an angle, and also showing a little bit of the top here, because I'm going to start layering in a few decorative pieces, and I wanted to be able to see just a bit of the surface edge. So there's just little things like that that you want to keep your eye out for whenever you're looking for product images that you're going to add to the sides. And once you've done that, what I would probably do for this piece, instead of just distorting this entire thing, I'm just going to zoom in here again so that you guys can see all the details. Okay. I'm actually going to crop this. So I'm going to take the crop tool and I'm going to just cut off the entire section of this that I'm not going to keep. We're going to get rid of all of that. And then I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to distort it now. So if I click the distort tool and I just pull this out, I'll be able to just kind of use my grid lines again, just to kind of make sure that I'm distorting this on the appropriate angle for this particular wall. And then we'll apply it. Now, if I want to get a better sense for what this looks like, and I feel like my grid's kind of getting in the way, you can always click on your, oh, I have to double click on my grid. You can always double click on your grid to unlock it, and then you can push it back behind the empty room image so you can get a very good sense of what your room's looking like, and then just bring it forward whenever you need it. So it's a really handy way to just kind of go about continuing to build out your designs. Now I'm going to lock it again. And what I'm going to do here next is I'm just going to bring that art piece in that I wanted to use for that side wall. Where did I have that? This one right here. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to clean up this image as well. Pop into the background removal tool. And then I'm just going to use the magic auto removal tool to get a nice clean trace. Now that I've got that, we'll again scale this down. I'm going to slide it into place roughly where I want it to be. And then again, I'm going to zoom in just so you guys can see the details of this. And what I'll probably do again is just cut that section off that I don't need. So we'll use the crop tool. We're going to remove the portion of the art piece that we don't need. And then I'm going to distort it. And I might actually keep this a little bit lower. So let's bring it in here. And one of the things that you should always keep in mind whenever you're using your grid, you always want to make sure that when you're distorting things on the side walls, that your vertical lines are vertical, 100% vertical, and that you're only really distorting the horizontal lines to go along and match the overall grid. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things that I'm going to do to these two pieces right here, because I actually plan on having a darker finish for the majority of the wood pieces within this place or within this particular space. So this is the color that I'm actually mainly going to be focusing on. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to click onto this piece. And again, I'm going to use the image adjustment tools. I'm going to take the saturation down and I'm going to bump up the contrast, so that I can get it a little bit more in line with the other pieces that I'll be building into this space. And you can do the same thing if you're dealing with artwork that's maybe too vibrant or too blue or too this or too that for the space. You can always take down the saturation a little bit or pump up the contrast or do anything like that to just tweak these product images so that you get them set up to perfectly work with your overall design. Okay, so let's go through. We're going to start adding in a few little accent pieces here. There are some vases that I would like to use. This one right here. Okay, so I actually wanted to use a couple of these in this overall design, but they're all shot within one particular image. So here's what I did. I'm going to drag this out, and you'll see that it's only showing the trace of one of these images because I actually already traced out this particular piece. I did that by using the background removal tool and switching over to the manual tracing option, the same one that we used to cut out the window. So I've already cut out this piece. And now that I have this piece, here's what I can do. I want to now grab this one. So in order to do that, I'm just going to duplicate this piece. I'm going to go back into the background removal tool. I'm going to clear this trace. And then I'm just going to zoom into the product edges and I'm going to trace this piece out instead. And then that'll give me the two individual parts of this image that I want to use for this design. Now, if you haven't used the tracing tool, it's really, really handy. It's going to give you those nice clean cuts that you can get for just to kind of give you a nice clean product outline. But if you are dealing with items that have more of a curve to them, here's how you use it. You want to make a point. You're going to keep holding down the left button of your mouse. You're going to move your mouse and you'll see that curved line start to appear. And when you have a nice tight trace to the product edge, just release the button on your mouse. So again, I'm going to click, I'm going to hold down, I'm going to move my mouse out. And then when I've got it perfect, I'm just going to release it. And then you can make your way around the product. And when you get used to it, it's very quick and easy, and it'll just give you more flexibility to use a lot more products within your designs if you're having to deal with them being, shot within an image that has a lot of background to it, a lot of additional products in it. This will give you that nice clean cut that you want. Okay, so we're going to save this, and we're going to bring these two in. I'm going to place this one up here and just go ahead and scale that down. And then I'm going to bring this one up, and I'm going to scale this down. and just kind of line it up on my credenza piece. Bring this a little bit over. Okay, now I actually wanted to put a little bit of greenery in this too. So I did find an image that I thought would be useful. It's just this. And you might think, okay, this is not an image that you're going to be able to do anything with because let's just bring the whole image in because it's got this glass vase and other parts to it, but you don't have to have all of that extra built in. I just basically removed this background image to a point where I was going to be able to just have these green fronds, and then I can save that. I can bring it over here. We're going to scale this down to the size that I need. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to push this particular layer back a couple of layers using the layer tools up here. So we'll just click a couple of times here to push it back to make it look like it's sitting within this piece. Okay, so let's see here. Why don't we go ahead? We'll add in. We could add in. Let's go over the window. We'll go ahead, we'll add in some curtains. We're going to add in a curtain rod, and then we can build out the rest of the room from the back wall moving forward. So again, I've already set aside some curtains that I want to use for this space. It's going to be these ones right here. Now, most of the time, if you are looking for curtains or anything like that online, you're probably going to see that they're shot within a space. So again, I'm going to drag this out, and you can see here that what I've done is I've actually just used that same tracing tool, and I just took one of those curtain panels. That's all I need. So once I've got that, what I can do here is I can bring this curtain panel over to this window. I'm going to zoom in here. We're going to scale this down to the size that I want. I'm going to line it up here. And then what I'm actually, well, let's go higher. Let's kind of hang this up so it's a lot higher off the window edge here. Okay, so what I'm going to do here now is, again, just going back to my trusty little distort tool, and I'm just going to pull on the corners of this curtain panel so that I can line it up. I'm going to bring this all the way down to the floor, and I'm going to bring this corner down as well so that it's working on the same angles. Something like this. Okay, so I've got this curtain panel here. I'm probably going to, I'll apply that. And then what I can do here is we can duplicate that. We're going to slide it over. I'm going to put it over onto this edge. And now all I have to do is just pull this down and increase the size of it because it's already working on that same angle. So I know it's going to be a perfect fit. So we'll just zoom out a little bit here, and you can see the two curtain panels that are working along that same perspective line. Now, what I need to do here is I need to grab a curtain rod so that I can connect these two together. So I already have an image that I'm going to use, and you really don't have to waste your time finding that perfect curtain rod that's going to be the right length and all of that jazz. All you need is to get an image like this where there's a portion of it that you can use to create that curtain rod that's going to connect between the two. So I'm going to use this, and let's see here. I'm going to take the crop tool. I'm just going to bring this down and take just this section right here. That's it. So then I can come over here. I'm going to bring my screen into the middle so that I can zoom in nice and tight. I'm going to place this curtain rod little section right here, get it down to the thickness that I want. And then what I'll do is I'll use that distort tool again and then just connect it over here. And line it up. Okay, right about there. I'm going to apply this, and now all I need to do is just push this curtain rod behind the two curtain panels. We'll zoom out again so you can see what this looks like. I'll remove the grid, and you'll get a sense for how this room is coming together. So again, double click on my grid because I already locked it. I'm going to unlock it here, and then I'm going to push it back. And we can start to see how this is coming together. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll bring in a few of the furniture pieces now. Let's see what I've got in here. Here we go. We'll bring in our sofa. So this has got a little bit of a shadow. I just want to clean that up, back into the background removal tool and do the magic auto removal tool option. and it's going to clean it up for us. So I don't have to spend too much time doing that. And then I can start also building out this back wall as well. So we'll take this piece right here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'll duplicate this piece. We're going to bring it over to this side. I can see that there's a little shadow there that I want to clean up. So back to the background removal tool, use the magic option, and then you can come right back to your design. And let's see here. We're going to push this back. So I'm going to use the layer tools right here. We'll push this back one layer at a time until it fits into the position that we want. Now I did have another piece of furniture that's going to sit right in between the two. So let me just pop over to this library where I had already kind of mapped it out. Let's see here. Which one was it? It was this one. Okay, so I just want to grab the correct image. There's one where it's just facing forward. That's the one. Okay, great. So I'm going to scale this down, and this is going to sit in between the two pieces. And I actually don't need this little, I'm just going to extend this. I don't need this top bit right up here. I just want to see the flat view, like the face of this piece, because if I was looking into this room, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily see this top bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the crop tool, and I'm just going to cut that section off so that I have a nice clean version of this product to work with. That works for me. And then I'm going to scale it down, and I'm just going to kind of scale it into place so I have the way I want. And I'll tuck it behind this sofa and bring it forward until it's exactly where I need it. Okay, great. And then at this point, I could just start building in or adding in any of the extra kind of decor elements. So we'll bring in the art piece. We'll bring in that piece of driftwood that I had also used in the previous design. So let me go ahead and grab those. Here's the art piece. We're going to bring this in. Again, just going to play around with my left, right, and up, down arrow so I can get everything exactly the way I want. And one of the things that I should mention too, if you are wondering about, oh, we got to make sure that this is, basically to scale, you absolutely are trying to make sure that when you're piecing these items in, that you're getting it to the correct scale. And if you're wondering how you can make sure that that's actually going to happen, one of the best things to do is to actually start your project by creating a floor plan, because when you create the floor plan, you're going to be able to add in the exact furniture size. And then you can use this as your guide as you're starting to build out your 3D mood board design. So that'll always help be a reference point to you, so you can kind of use it to say, okay, this is essentially where it should be. You can kind of eyeball things into place. Okay. So we've got our art piece in. I am going to bring in this piece as well. I was able to find a clean version of it, so I'm going to bring that in. And to make this look like it's sitting really flat on this furniture piece right here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to crop off the bottom so that it looks like it's just kind of sitting snug instead of floating around. And then we can scale this down and slide it into place. Okay. Now let's start bringing in some of the other elements into this design. So we're going to add in a few pillows, the coffee table, some armchairs. So let's start with some of these pillows that are going to go onto the sofa. This one right here. I'm going to bring this one in. I'm going to clean up the background a little bit by using this tool. And we'll just kind of scale this down and place it onto the sofa. Now, if you want your pillows to look a little bit more realistic when they're sitting on the sofa, you can rotate them slightly so they're basically kind of working with the seat of the sofa. And in this case, this particular pillow is just slightly too cream for me. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the image adjustment tools, and I'm going to take a bit of that saturation out so that I can get it to work a little better with my design. And once I've done that, I can take this pillow, duplicate it, flip it, and bring it here over to the other side of the sofa. Now I also have another one that I'm going to add in here. And for this particular one, we'll just use that magic auto removal tool again. There's definitely there's a few key tools that you just regularly use when you're building out designs like this. So you just kind of, you get very used to using them, but they really kind of deliver a big impact when you're building out designs like this and give you a much cleaner look. Now, in this case, with this pillow right here, there's a bit too much of an arch on the bottom of it. So it's never going to look like it's sitting properly within this sofa. It always looks like it's floating a little bit. So what I would do is I would just crop off the bottom of this just a little bit, just to tighten that up. And then we can add this to the sofa and it's going to look a little bit more realistic. Again, I'm just going to curve it slightly so that it looks like it's leaning here into the rest of the other pillows that are on this, this sofa. Okay, let's bring in our coffee table. It's a little bit, a portion of it's missing, so we're just going to go into the background removal tool, clean it up, and then we're going to scale this into place. Now, one of the things that I'm going to show you here, it's just a little tip that you can use, but I was looking for a round tray that I could add to this coffee table. And I wanted it to be in the right perspective. And I didn't want to waste a lot of time, hunting around for this little round tray. So one of the things that I did, and it's something that you can do as well, I found this side table right here. And I thought, okay, the top of that is actually perfect. It's exactly what I'm looking for. So what I did was I took this side table and I just cut the legs off of it so that I could just, trace the top half and then use that for my design. So if you've got scenarios where you're just looking for some little accent or, just something specific, but it's not actually going to be a critical must be that exact product, you can always look at taking elements from other images and then just using them to build out your design. And it'll be a lot faster than spending that time to go through and look for 1,000 different tray images to find something that's going to fit. So if you feel like you're not concerned about being able to find something like this and you just want to whip together your design board, take advantage of other product images, just cut the sections that you need. I'm going to bring in these flowers now, and I'm just going to use the background removal tool. And in this case, I'm going to flip over to the gray version of this background so that when I pull this to the right, I'll be able to see how much of the background is being removed. So you can always switch between the white and the gray here. I do it all the time if I'm trying to really cleanly see how much of that white background is taken off. And just in case there's somebody watching that's not familiar with our removal tools, you can use this one here, but if it doesn't give you the perfect clean cut, you also have this option as well, where you can just pull the toggle to the right. As you pull the toggle to the right, it removes more of the image. As you pull it to the left, it brings back the full image. So you can just find that happy medium spot where you're getting the majority of the image that you want without too much of a halo. And then we'll save this and bring it down and add it to our coffee table. Okay, now let's see here. I am going to bring in some chairs. Where are my chairs? Okay, when you are looking for chairs, if you are going to be creating designs like this, it doesn't even have to be chairs, to be honest. When you're looking for any products, if you're building designs like this, when you're out there looking for products that you want to use within it, a lot of the vendors now give you the product shot from multiple angles. So if you've been using our browser clipper tool, you want to make sure that you're grabbing all these additional versions of the product so that you can pull in whatever version you need when you're building out your designs. So take the extra few seconds to grab all these additional product images, and it's just going to make it a lot easier for you to build out your design boards. Now I've done that with this chair right here. I did grab the back version of it. So I'm going to bring this out and I'm just going to slide this into place. I do have a little bit of a shadow down here. So I'm just going to clean that up by using the background removal tool. And I'll just use this one and pull that little shadow out. So I have a nice clean image. And I think this chair, it looks a little too dark. So I'm going to use the brightness and I'm just going to punch it up a little bit. I think that's better. Okay, so we'll use this. Again, if I want to have two of these, I'm going to click on that chair. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to flip it. And then I'm going to bring it over here and line it up on the other side of this coffee table. And the other thing that we always want to keep in mind as well is that any of the items that are in the foreground for your design boards, they're going to be larger than the items that are in the background. So you want to make sure that you're playing with the overall size of these items so that your perspective is also more accurate. So I'm going to leave these at this size right here. And I think that that's actually working pretty nicely for this design. And one of the other things that I actually was playing around with recently is that I like the idea of having an accent pillow on these chairs, but because we're looking at the chairs from this view, you don't really get to see it. So I was playing around with this the other day, and I tried something out where I just kind of lined up a pillow like this just in front of this chair. Let's go ahead and we're going to duplicate this as well, actually, and we'll bring it over here too. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the chair and I'm going to bring the chair forward. And then I can click on this chair and bring this chair forward. And then it just kind of gives that little tiny, what do you want to call it? Just that little corner of the pillow that is sticking out so that we get a sense that there is an accent pillow on this side as well. Now, a couple key things that will also help you if you feel like you need to adjust things and move things around within your design. If you are, let's say you wanted to shift this sofa around, but you've added these extra pillows. So what I'd actually do here is I would click on one of the pillows, I'd hold down Shift, click on the other pillow, click on the other pillow, and click on the sofa. And then I'm going to group all of this together so it just moves as one giant piece. So we'll click the group tool here. And what that means is that I can now move this wherever I want. And if I scale the items down, they're all going to scale down at the same size as well. So it's just an easy way for you to start shifting things around without having to do everything one at a time. So just keep that in mind if you do feel like you're needing to shift a few items around and you don't want to have to spend the time to do it all individually. Let's see here. Oh, this is really handy as well. So when you're building out your design boards, and I know that I've got I'm going to try to wrap this up because I do want to take your questions. And if we need to extend it for an extra few, then that's fine too. But this is a really helpful tip as well. When you're creating designs and you have these large bookcases and you want to be able to kind of fill up those bookcases so it looks really nicely designed, it's really handy to have an image like this in your library. I'm just going to clean up the background here so we can see the full thing. Now, the cool thing about having an image like this is that I can now go in and I can crop down to a certain section. So we'll just take something like this, and then I can apply it, and then I can scale this down, and I can add in some books into this bookshelf, right? But if I don't want all my books to be the exact same, I can duplicate this. I'm just going to scale this back up again. We're going to go back into the crop tool, and I'm going to shift it over, and now I'm going to take this section. And it just makes it really quick and easy for you to just fill out a bookshelf, but not have all your books look like they're all the exact same single image that you've been building into your design. So again, I would take this out, and then I'm going to extend this, and I'm going to go back to the crop tool, and maybe we want to take something like this, and we're going to take the top 3 books here, and we're going to build that into the bookshelf. So it's just a really handy way to just kind of quickly organize certain things within your design, fill out those bookshelves with all kinds of little accents. You can see it here. Let me just open this one up for you. You can see how I've done it in this particular case, but I didn't have to waste the time to go around online and grab all these different book images. I can just use the one and then just cut it into different segments and then place that wherever I want. And if you like the idea of having this, I actually found this image in our vendor library in the side door products, and I looked for book. Look at all these options. So you can even pick it based on your color scheme so you can get everything to match really nicely for your designs. So it's just a really handy thing to have. Okay, let's go back to my library here. I'm going to bring in a few little accent pieces onto, let's see here. Oh, let's bring in the light actually, so we can dress this up a bit. This is the light fixture that I'm using. The system's actually removed the background pretty cleanly for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and scale this down and then add it into place here. Let's see here. I'm going to hang this up a little higher. Okay. Now, if you are going to be adding some accents into your bookshelves as well, if you want that to look realistic, a couple things to keep your eye open for. I'm going to take this piece right here. Again, we're just going to kind of clean that up. This one has different depths, I guess, where the product is sitting. So this is another case where I would probably crop off the bottom here just to get a nice clean level, and then put this into my bookshelf so that everything looks like it's sitting flush. We'll zoom in a little bit here, and then you can scale it down and place it where you want within your bookshelf. Okay. All right. One last tip that I'm going to go over with you, and then we'll open it up for questions. I want to bring in a glass item because I didn't actually use any within this design, but you guys are most likely going to end up doing that. So let's bring in this coffee table right here. I'm going to clear this cut so that you can see exactly what I've been up to. Let's just use this. Okay, let's say that you want to use this coffee table right here. Now, the hard thing with glass is that if you use the background removal tool to get rid of that white backdrop, you're probably running into a situation like this, where you're getting a little bit of a fuzzy edge. You're trying to bring in all the glass, but the more of the glass that you bring in, the more of a white halo you get around the edges, and it just doesn't look great. So here's how I would approach situations like this. We're just going to remove remove the glass. We're just going to clean up this product image as much as we can here. So I'm going to take maybe something like this. So, okay, the base looks good. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to go back into the background removal tool, bring the whole image back in, and I'm going to go into the manual remove option. We're going to crop in nice and close to this piece. And I'm just going to take the top half now. So all I need is this section right here. We don't need to deal with the legs at all. I'm just going to quickly cut this out. Save this. And then I'm going to layer this on top. Let's zoom into this so you can see what's happening here. Okay, we're going to cut this, basically layer this on top. And before I shift this whole thing about, I'm actually going to go into the transparency tool over here. I'm going to take the transparency down so that I can make it look like I can see through this glass, so it's more realistic. And then what I'm going to do is I've already got the top selected, so I'm going to hold down Shift again. I'm going to click on the base, and I'm going to group these two pieces together. And now when I do this, if I wanted to use this as my coffee table down here, you can see how much nicer that looks. I can see through, I can see the edge of the sofa, I can see the pattern of the rug underneath, and it just gives a much cleaner look. So just keep that in mind. If you're ever dealing with any sort of glass products, you can always break apart the images to cut out the area with glass. You can use the transparency tool. You can group elements together and just create a nice clean look. All right, I think what I'm going to do here is I've talked plenty. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I will jump back over and we'll start looking at some of the questions that you guys have. Okay? Okay, here we go. So let me take a moment here. I'm going to go all the way to the top just to make sure that I'm getting all of these questions. Okay. Okay, what do you do for furniture pieces that don't have multiple angles available and you need a view from, let's say, the end of the sofa? Great question. So if you're stuck in a scenario where you cannot get that exact product shot on a decent angle for you to work with, I would actually honestly just recommend looking for something that is similar. Find a similar product that is shot on an angle, because what you can do is you can build that one into your design. And then when you create, you can also, I think it's going to be easier to show you instead of me talking. So let me just jump back in and I'll show you how I would approach this. Okay. Okay, so let's say we'll go into this design. We'll just let it load in. Let's say, or unless I already have this one, perfect. I've already got this one open. with this particular credenza here, let's say I was only able to get this shot square on. What I would probably end up doing is find a similar looking product, and I would that is shot on a decent angle, and I would use the similar looking product. But then what I'd do is I would just, let's say it was going to be this piece. This is the actual piece that you wanted to use. I would bring the actual piece into the design and just push it over here off to the side so that it's sitting in the gray area. Okay, so it's not in my design. It's just an image that I wasn't really able to use, but this is the actual product. I would save my design board. And then here's what you can actually do. On your product list, you can make sure that just that item, the actual credenza that you want, is showing in your product list. So if I go back to the project here, let's scroll down here. There's the item that is actually going to be the furniture piece. And I would hide this, the kind of more, the lookalike item that I used. So I would just hide this entire product from the client so that it doesn't show on the product list. And then they're really only approving the items that I'm actually recommending for their space. Let me know if that would do the trick. Okay, let me stop sharing here and I'm going to pop back in. Where do we get this perspective grid? All right, we'll share the perspective grid. You can get any perspective grid online if you want. I find that the one I've got is pretty handy because it's got really solid lines and it's easy to see. So we'll make sure, oh, it looks like Cole's already taking care of it. So I don't even have to. So well done. All right. Okay, so I don't have there's a question here saying I don't have the project items button on mine to add products. You're not going to, if you're thinking about, if you're referencing the browser clipper, it's not going to say project items. So again, give me 1 second here. I'm going to pop in and I'll show you what it does say. So let me just present here, entire screen, share. Okay, let's go over to our browser clipper. If you want to save items directly to your project, which is your project items when you're in the mood board view, what you want to do is right here where it says, where do you want to save the item? Click into this. And instead of just saving it to your library, save it to the actual project that you want to work on. That way it will show within your project items for that specific project. So just keep that in mind. And you can share it to multiple locations if you want. Okay. Are the trim images something that I uploaded manually? Yes, I just went onto Google Images and I found baseboard and crown molding images. The only thing that you want to keep in mind if you are looking for trim, wallpaper, paneling, anything like that, you want to make sure that the photo or the image that you're getting is shot square on so that when you choose to distort it within the design file system, it's going to be easy for you to distort. If the image is already on an angle, it's just going to create more problems for you. So always get the item that's shot square on. So there is a question here about how do you figure out scale? And that's why I did want to address the fact that it's always a great idea to kickstart your project by first creating a detailed floor plan. Because when you create that floor plan, you're going to get a sense for what size furniture is going to work within the space and how it's going to fill the space. And then you can use your floor plan as a guide so that when you're eyeballing items in, you're getting it roughly to the correct positioning that it should be when it's actually added to the space. That's just one of the things that you kind of have to keep in mind when you're dealing with mood board software, whether it's Photoshop or, I don't know, Canva or anything like that. They're not to scale. This is a tool to help you layer items in and help share your vision. But you do need to kind of eyeball those things into place. And having that floor plan as a guide is a great way to do that. Okay, so when you clean up an item with the background removal tool, do you have to clean it up again the next time you use it in a different project? So great question. If you use the manual tracing tool and you save that item to your design board, that traced version of the product is saved to the library. So anytime you pull that item out for any future project, you're going to get that traced version. Now that it doesn't work if you're using the magic removal tool where you're just kind of clicking it and it automatically removes the background. That's a case where if I use that product in another project, I'd probably still have to use the magic auto removal tool, but it works quickly. So it shouldn't be too much of a time inconvenience, but it's also a great point. And maybe we could look at just kind of figuring out how to make that cutout version stay no matter which tracing tool you're using. But right now it's the one that has the pen. If you use the manual tracing tool and you save that item to your design board, that traced version will get saved to your library for future use. So I've got a question here asking, so can we really scale off the back wall? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, but if you are wondering how you're going to get the perspective correct or how to make sure that the sofa is the right size, again, I would always start with the floor plan image, because when you start with that floor plan image, you're going to be able to see right there on the floor plan how much space this item is taking up, and then you can use that as your guide. There is a question here for how to create a floor plan in design files. Cole, could you just share the 3D floor plan video tutorial in the chat so that people can click on that link and then see how to create a floor plan? I don't even know why I ask you to do these things, Cole. He's already on top of it. This is what everybody needs, an awesome partner that just is already on top of things. Love it. Okay. Let's see here. So right now there is a question here asking if you can do elevations within design files. It's not something that we currently have. It is on our roadmap, but we just don't have it available now. We can always keep you guys posted and let you know when that's coming. Okay, would you guys be open to sharing many of these general assets, images, books? So the book image is already in the design files library. Go into side door, search for book, and all those book images will come up and you can pull them into all of your projects. I believe Cole already shared the perspective grid. And if there's any other images or assets that you're looking for, then just go ahead and add an additional comment in the thread and we'll see if we can get that to you as well. Okay, my library is crazy full of old items and I don't know how to get rid of them. So there is a way to clean up your product library. I think it's probably going to be best if I jump in and just show you my screen. Again, it looks like Cole has answered it, but I'm going to go ahead and share the screen anyway, just in case more of you have questions about that. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm going to pop out of the actual Moodboard software. If you have created or added a number of items to your product library, you can always go into your products up here. What you can do is you can browse by specific types of products or projects or anything like that. And if you want to delete items from your library, you can click the check boxes up here. And then you'll see that there's an option up here where you can choose to delete all the products. Now, here's something that you're just going to, you know what, maybe I'm just going to pull out. Let's give it a go. I can always add these back in later. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. If I delete these products, it's going to tell you if certain products are actually already added to a project. And if they're added to a project, the system is warning you that you probably don't want to delete them because you don't want to break any of the design boards that you already have set up. So what it will do instead is it's going to give you an option where you can archive all of these products so that they're not being removed from your old projects. And then instead what happens is they're just hidden from your product library. So as you go back into the Moodboard software and you want to look for specific items, those items are no longer going to show. Hopefully that helps. If the item wasn't added to an actual design board, you'll be able to delete it from this view. Okay. Let's see here. How do you group the items together again? Okay, I can do a quick review of that. And let me just have a quick look down here to see if there's anything else that I should be covering as I jump back in. Okay, glass objects have been a bear. So cool. Okay, good. I'm really glad that that helped. It's definitely so much better to just break apart any sort of glass products and then just get those elements in a nice, clean way where you can do the transparency option and then just group everything together so you have one nice, clean product. So I'm really glad that that was helpful. Okay. All right. If there's a question about grouping items, there's a question about where the crop tool is. Is there a group button? Let me just jump in. We'll just do a quick review of that, and then I'll come back out. Okay, back into my projects, into this project. We'll go into this design that we were working on, and I'll just let that load in. Okay, if I want to group items together, let's say I want to group together these two pieces and the green leafy fronds, whatever you want to call it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on one of the pieces. I'm going to hold down Shift on my keyboard. I'll click on the next piece and then keep holding down Shift and click on the next piece. When I have all the items that I want grouped together, I'm going to pop over to the toolbar and I'm going to click this button right here that says Group. When I do that, it's going to allow me to move all these pieces all at once. And if I ever need to ungroup these items, I can just select it just like this. And then you'll see that the icon on the group button has changed and now it says ungroup. So I can always ungroup anything and then I can just select on the individual items as well. Now the crop tool, I'm just going to click on one of these items right here. The crop tool is right here. So you can click on the crop tool and let's just shift this up a bit. You can either do a square or a circular crop. So if you have a round mirror that's shot on a wall and you want to be able to do a circle, well, actually, let's see if I've got any items here. I'm going to cancel out of this. Let's see here. I want like a round mirror that actually has a background. This will do. Let's take this in. Okay, let's say we just wanted to get this mirror here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring the full background back in, save it, use the crop tool, and switch over to the circle option. And then I can just bring these corners down to get nice and close to the edge so that I don't have any of that wall, the background of the wall in there. Now, in this case, if I wanted to get these two extra pieces, I'd probably use the tracing tool, but I just wanted to show you how you can use the round option on the crop to just narrow in on a specific section and cut it out. Okay, stop sharing, back into the questions. Can you copy a product from the products list to add to the assets? So I'm assuming you want to move it into your assets library. So that's not something that you can currently do, but it's a really great suggestion. So maybe what we need to do is look at different ways that we can set up the overall main products tab so that you can bounce between your library, the main library, your assets, and just drag and drop products into whatever folder it is that you like. So we'll give that some thought and see if we can get that a little bit more streamlined for you. So if the client does want to see this room from a different angle, yes, you would have to create a different design board for the different angle. You can absolutely choose to create a 3D rendering in design files as well. The reason I wanted to cover the mood board, like building out more of a full room design using the mood board software, is that the nice thing about having the mood board software is that you can add whatever product image you want into the system. So it gives you the opportunity to show the exact items. Whereas not every vendor on the planet has their entire collection set up as 3D models. So a lot of the time when you're building 3D renderings, you end up using a similar looking product as a placeholder and then still creating a mood board design where you're just showing the actual product. But if you do like the idea of being able to create full room designs and bringing in the actual items, creating more of this room board using the Moodboard software will probably give you the look that you're going for, but it does mean creating it for different views of the space. How to scale wallpaper? Great question. You would do it kind of, I think I've gone over time, but if you want to stick around and get your answers to the questions, let's just do it. So let me show you how you can deal with wallpaper within the space. I think I've got a design board that actually has some paneling, and you would do the exact same steps. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm going to back out of this design right here. We're going to go into a different project. This is the project I'm going to go into. Here we go. So here's a case where I was actually building out some paneling on the bottom of this wall here, some just beadboard paneling. And I found an image online. Let me see here. Just want to select this. This is all it was. It was literally just a square of the actual beadboard, and I just replicated it all the way across the wall. And when you're adding it to side walls, what you want to do is, again, you're going to use your perspective grid. Let me see if I can bring this forward. There we go. I added in my perspective grid so that when I added one of these panel pieces to the side wall, I was able to distort it to make sure that it was distorting in a way that was realistic for the actual wall. So you would do the same thing with your wallpaper. You can just duplicate it across, and when you get to the side walls, you're going to use your grid, get that in line, and then you're just going to distort each of these pieces so that it's working along the same perspective lines, and it'll give you a more realistic look. Can you apply text to the mood boards? Absolutely. There's a text tool within Design Files. You can add whatever you want to your mood boards. In today's demo, I was really focused on creating more of that full room design. But if you do want to add in your company name, if you want to add in notes, if you want to do checklists, anything like that, you can absolutely do that. I'll just go ahead. I'm going to share the screen again, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, let's back out of this one. We'll open up a different project here. Here's one where I've actually got some text in it. So let's go ahead. We're going to open up this design. It's just a clean, simple mood board design, but you do have a text tool right in here. And if you want, you can just browse through, and if you find a font that you like, then just go ahead and drag it out onto your mood board, type in your message. And then over here, you can change the font size, you can change line height, you can do italics or bold or underline, you can change the color of it, you can do whatever you want and just kind of build in a number of notes that you can add to your design board or use it to add titles or anything else. And if you do want to use it in a way where you're adding notes to your design board, one of the things that you can do is you can just go ahead and you can duplicate your text messages that you added so that everything maintains the same font size, color, whatever. And then you just update the text message over here to the next note that you want to add. Hope that helps. So if you wanted to import your own elevations from AutoCAD, just make sure that the files are in the form of a JPEG, PNG, or GIF. Then you could absolutely add those into the Moodboard software, use it as a backdrop, and then have that as the kind of clean background design that you can start layering your products in front of. Is there a way to edit the room name once you have created a design? Yeah, absolutely. So let me just have a quick look at additional questions, and then I'll jump back in and we'll just kind of cover a few at once. How long does it normally take you on average to complete a room design? So we actually got fairly detailed into that one design that we were working our way through. I think I took upwards of 50 minutes where I was building out that design. I am stopping to talk and share some of the tips and how I do things while I'm at it. So for me, I could probably pull it together a little bit faster if I wasn't stopping to talk. But I think it just kind of comes down to getting used to the tools. One of the biggest time savers, though, is the time that it's like what you really, I guess what I'm trying to say is what can increase the time for creating these design boards is the sourcing of the products. So for me, I like to try to make sure that I have a good collection of products already added to my project items that I know I want to use within this design or I'm considering using. And that way I can just go through that curated list and start pulling those items onto my design board. And that dramatically speeds up the process. If you're sourcing products kind of as you go and you're using the browser clipper and, jumping out of doing your mood board design, sourcing, or coming back in, then it's gonna prolong the process. But if you get everything kind of organized, then the building of the actual design board doesn't take as long as you might think. You just start dragging out the products that you want. And I think it also just comes down to getting used to the tools, getting used to thinking about how you can edit items, how you can crop items, getting used to using the manual tracing tool and the distort tool. It's really the distort tool that you're going to be using a lot. And once you get really familiar with it, everything kind of comes together nicely. Okay, so let's see here. There was a question. I already forgot what you said. I'm sorry. Let's see here. We did the text one. Is there a way to edit the room name after you've created a design? Sorry, I had to get my brain back in gear there. Yes, you can absolutely do that. I'm going to jump in. When you are in this view, just click right here. This is the name of your design board. You just click into that field, edit it, and that will become the new name of your design board. Building an asset library, how to. It's really just in your mood board panel where you have your personal library, project items, and then you have assets. You'll see that if you click on project items or assets, there's going to be an upload button. So you just want to make sure that you've selected which library you want to save that item to, and then you can just upload that item directly into that library. Yeah, grab the perspective grid that Cole added to the chat and just upload that directly into your library. If you upload it to your library, just call it grid, and then it means that you can just search for that and pull it up and use it for any project moving forward. So definitely a handy one to have in your main library. How do you get the area of your room from the floor plan to the mood board so that you have windows and doors in the correct spot? I'm not sure I understand that question. If you are creating a floor plan using the DesignFiles 3D floor planner, you have the ability to place the windows and the doors exactly where they should be based on your client's home. You'll see that when you're placing windows and doors in the 3D floor planner, that it shows you the measurements or the distance between the edges of the walls. So you will be able to get it exactly the way it needs to be for your client to match your client space. And you can adjust the window height, width, distance from floor, everything. So if you are creating the floor plan, the empty rendering of your client space, and then saving that as an image and bringing it into the Moodboard software, you'll see that when you go into the floor planner that you can get everything exact. If I'm not answering this question correctly, then just let me know and I'll try to follow back up. How do I unlock the room view after I've locked it? Just double click. Just do a quick double click on the image and you'll see that a dotted line is going to appear around that image. And then on your toolbar, you'll see at the bottom, there's an unlock tool. Just click that to unlock it and you're good to go. There is a way to get digital signatures for your contracts in this platform. Cole, maybe you could share the contract video in the chat so that people can see how they can do their design contracts within Design Files. Okay, all right. I think that covers it. So that is officially it. That is the end of eDesign Business Building Week. 7 webinars, 6 experts. Yes, I'm including myself as an expert. But I really hope that it was a great week for you guys. We had a lot of fun with this. It was amazing to get all of these great guests in to speak with you guys. Lots of really good information. And all of these webinars are going to be recorded. We're going to get everything together in one location for you. There was a lot of kind of free giveaways as well. So we'll give you the links to all of those, get everything set up in one location, and then you guys can just kind of check out any of the sessions that you missed. But I think for me, that is it. It's been kind of a hectic week, and I think I'm going to go kick up my feet and take it easy for the evening. But thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have an awesome day. Bye-bye.